be making meatballs. It's snowing heavily outside, so it's always a good time for a nice, warm, filling meal, right? One of the great things about meatballs is that, like meatloaf, you can basically put whatever you have available in it, and it's going to turn out pretty good if the flavors play along together.
We're copying something from Foodspin from a while back that's really, really delicious.
Yes, from the Foodspin archives. So it's the recipe we're using. So one of the first things that you'll want to do for making the meatloaf is to toast some pine nuts, which I'm going to start working on over here. Oh, and set the oven for 400 degrees.
Move the pan off the preheating oven.
Yes, move the pan off the preheating oven. For this, you're going to want a double handful or so of pine nuts and medium heat. And unfortunately, pine nuts are something that you really can't, you can't just ignore.
So he's going to be paying attention to that while I chop bread into tiny, tiny pieces, since this calls for breadcrumbs. And we like to do actual bread for breadcrumbs, because it works so much better for this.
Generally, we actually use the Tuscan penne from Trader Joe's. It is really, really good for this type of job. But it's snowing heavily. Trader Joe's is half an hour away. So
yeah.
So we're using what type of bread? Rustic Italian bread from
the grocery store. And I am going to cut off the hard bits of the crust because I like my bread. You can eat that. I'll leave the nice top.
You better.
And there's these for dipping for later. But the idea is to make very, very small cubes of bread. You can also just do this by, tearing it up with your thumb, but that takes a bit.
Yeah. Tearing it up by hand is definitely more cathartic, but also takes a lot longer. We're hungry now.
Well, we're not hungry now. This is going to take a while.
Well,
we're very aware of that.
By the time we're done, we will be hungry now.
Oh, yes. We will be very hungry by the time we're done.
Oh. With the pine nuts, what you're going for is a slight change in color and just for your kitchen to start smelling like pine nuts. You might want to do that in 2 batches.
Yeah. I'm realizing that. And it doesn't really matter that they're not even dices because the whole point of this was to get breadcrumbs. So, yeah. I don't care that they're weirdly different sizes. I just have to go through and make sure that there's not a whole bunch of really giant ones. That one and that one and that one and that one.
Even knife cuts are for fancy occasions, right?
Well, and precision cooking. Meatballs are not necessarily precision cooking.
So my pine nuts have started to take on a bit of a shine and are starting to change color, which is why I'm moving them around more. These are almost done.
Two. Okay, perfect. I only need 2.5, so break that up some more.
I'm going to take these off of the heat and leave them to cool for a second. Generally, meatball recipes call for onions. Jesse's not a big fan of onions, so we're using some shallots instead. But
I got a couple more pieces.
I'm going to. I suppose these have thawed enough that the butcher knife wasn't really necessary.
But still.
But still.
The butcher knife is the thing to use when you are cutting frozen foods because it is strong enough to take it and sharp enough to be precise.
Yep. I froze a gallon of shallots last year.
And we still have half a gallon of shallots left.
After peeling them all, I should mention.
Yes.
So I can just reach into the bag and grab out a couple of pre-peeled shallots whenever the need should arise.
Okay, that's 3 rather than 2.5, so slightly breadcrumby.
That'll be fine. The reason that we're doing, what is it, 2.5 of breadcrumbs? The full recipe calls for a bit more than that, but I didn't actually check how much meat I bought when we were at the store the other day, and bought a little bit less than the recipe calls for.
So we're adjusting, because we can math.
Yep.
There we go. Breadcrumbs.
I will need that plate in a moment. If you want to brush it off, I'm going to use that, or not plate, cutting board. Yeah, I'm going to use it for the pine nuts in just a second. Okay. As soon as I've got these dealt with. Do you want to go to town on this a bit more?
You're good.
There's a...
You want me to go to town
I would
on
like
that
you
a
to
bit
go
more?
to town on that a bit more for me.
Well, I'm switching knives because
That's fine.
I can control the small one much easier.
Speaking of going to town on things, oh no, it's over here. There we go. Nicely minced shallots.
Yep.
And I will just be using rolling pin to break up the pine nuts.
I'm going to hold this in place.
Thank you. So kind of you.
Because I really don't want that flying out of your hands and crushing anything. You don't have to paste them or anything.
No.
Just a bit of a
These are a lot fresher than I'm used to, which is why they're turning into a paste. Usually I'm used to the ones we've had for a while, having them turn more into a dust.
Yes. But we just bought these.
We just bought these, and apparently they are...
Better?
Yeah, better.
The word you're looking for is better.
Who would have thought that fresh ingredients can make such a difference with food?
Although frozen is perfectly valid. All of our herbs that we're using for this are frozen. We took them out of the freezer. Our nice new freezer with extra space and better organization.
So speaking of which, we've got some chives.
Finely chopped chives.
Finely chopped chives. We've got the shallots going in there.
And then I have to mince. Sorry for the loud noise.
Yes, you should not do that next to the microphone in the future. That's going to startle people on the recorded video.
Sorry, buddy.
I'd say we'll fix it in post, but I don't know how.
Unfortunately, it's very wet parsley, so it's not going to mix into this very well, but...
This was some parsley that we kind of just threw into the freezer last year.
At the end of the season.
At the end of the season.
In the bag it came in with no processing whatsoever.
Yeah. Pro tip, not the best way to handle parsley, turns out.
It functions. Still smells really good. It just is kind of, wet.
Yeah.
There
we go. That's much better. Oh, good. And there's the other heated.
And basil, which I will do a nice fine chop on because it smells really, really strong. So I want to make sure that the pieces are small and distributed out well, because otherwise you're going to get a mouthful of basil. It will not be nearly as pleasant as you want it.
Especially since we're actually using Thai basil, which is slightly bitter.
Well, we're not actually positive that it's Thai basil.
I am almost 100% positive that
It
from that
wasn't
smell.
labeled as Thai basil, but it certainly seems like Thai basil.
From that smell of it, I am almost 100% certain that that is not sweet basil. That is Thai basil.
Which is why I did not use as much of it as I normally would have, because that smelled real strong when I opened the freezer container. Okay.
Here, I'll take your ring and your watch.
I can just put it down.
Okay, that works too.
I already washed my hands.
Yep. Give me a moment. Oh no! Sorry about that. That was entirely on me. First time using the new webcam, you know? Got the about a pound of pork, or a little bit over a pound of pork. And then, Jesse breaks that up. A pound and a fourth or so of...
Pound and a half almost.
Pound of half almost of burger. Beef meat.
Cow meat.
Cow meat. It's been a long day. Of course, it's usually a long day by the time dinner comes around.
Mm-hmm. Okay, 3 eggs for binding.
Give me just a second. To rinse the beef off.
Well, you can properly wash it off after you egg.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Oops.
I don't need to put that one.
Okay. And then wait,
Olive
also a glug of olive oil.
Yes.
Glug. Glug being an entirely scientific term.
Yes.
Because we are professionals, right?
Yes.
Serious business.
Now, unlike my advice for meatloaf, in that you don't want to overwork your stuff and whatnot, I'm actually going to work this a little bit more than I normally would, because I still have large chunks of herbs in places because they were, frozen herbs that we took out, and so they're still kind of wet. And they're meatballs, so you have to form them anyway.
And meatballs can also, since they're smaller, they don't get quite as chewy if you overwork it as the meatloaf does.
So I'm just going to try to break up some of these herb spaces. Try to make sure the breadcrumbs are mostly evenly distributed. Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Hand down.
Cookie sheet. We highly recommend a cookie sheet with sides.
They are nice, juicy meatballs. You should probably pan that sheet.
That is an excellent point.
Because the meatballs will stick, and, well, they might not, but if they do, they will, be problematic.
There we go. So you want about golf ball size meatloaf.
Not that I actually know what a golf ball size is, since I don't play the game.
About that
like
big.
That?
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't matter so much what size they are, as long as all of the meatballs on the same pan are the same size. That way they all cook at the same rate.
Cooking at the same rates is important. You can put them closer together than that for the meatballs. They don't.
Oh, they don't expand.
They don't expand. They shrink ever so
Meatballs
slightly.
are not cookies.
Yes, meatballs are not cookies.
So,
I mean, really though, what is a cookie?
Flour and sugar and baking powder and other things that makes deliciousness.
I suppose you can't make a cookie without those things.
No,
Just meat.
not really. Anyway, why don't you,
Our clownfish are fighting.
Okay. Well, I would say go stop them, but you don't really have a way to do
Yeah,
that.
I don't really have a way. Either they're fighting or they're flirting.
Let's go with flirting. It's less terrifying.
It's less disconcerting.
This is going to take me quite a while unless you also, form. I mixed. I know you don't like it.
I'll be cooking.
No,
That's
you'll
the
be
way it
putting
works,
the thing
right?
in the oven.
But you're so good at this.
Yes.
Okay, the clownfish appear to be friends again. Fish are weird.
Fish are friends, not food. Except fish are delicious, and I eat them all the time.
Yes, fish are delicious. This is gonna take more than one sheet worth.
Yeah, we can only do one sheet worth at a time, though.
Yeah, that's fine. But you can start putting them on the next sheet.
Yeah.
Those are looking pretty nice.
Anyway, what shall we speculate on while I
Well, I'm wondering
form?
if it's going to continue snowing. Actually, I'm going
It's
to
supposed to.
open that up for a minute. Huh. Should you suppose to keep snowing for a while?
Mm-hmm. I mean, we were supposed to wake up to like 4 inches, so it's not like I trust that forecast.
We
but
woke
it
up
is
to, like-
supposed to.
We woke up to like 2, but it was raining by the time you
Ah.
were actually coherent.
Okay.
Like, I think at some point we probably had 4 inches of snow before the rain started.
Okay.
Yeah. That seems likely. They were salting the heck out of the roads, planning
Last night.
for that much snow last night. Thank you for making these, by the way, Jesse.
Yeah. I just don't know if people want to watch me form the entire second batch.
Oh,
so
why
you
not?
can just show off our pretty meatballs and put them
Oh,
in the
yeah.
fridge.
And by fridge, you mean oven?
Yeah.
Putting it in the fridge will not end up with a edible product at the end. And, you can keep warm enough.
Yeah, move the thing closer.
Give the people what they want. Meat.
Meat and bread and nuts and herbs.
See?
Did you pan this one?
I did not.
Pan this one.
That sounds like a balanced meal right there. You got your meat, your
Don't
carbohydrates.
count as vegetables.
Your vegetables.
If they did, then yes, these meatballs would be a balanced meal.
Shallots are totally vegetables.
Well, yes, you keep trying to convince me that onions are vegetables.
Onions and shallots are totally vegetables.
No. There's
See?
not really enough of those in here to count, though. As
That's
like...
because you don't like it.
I know I don't.
I could have put more in. Made this an actual healthy meal, you know. But so, the meatballs go in the oven, by the way, for 15 minutes. Got the first batch going in. If you slide them a little closer, remember, not cookies. Did you just make a face at me while I
I
wasn't
stuck
looking?
my tongue out at you.
Okay,
But it was off a frame, so nobody knows.
well they know now. All of your secrets have been revealed by yourself. This is going to be a very tasty dinner.
Mm-hmm. And leftovers
Yes.
for a while.
Sure, a while.
For at least a couple of days, right?
I will do my best.
No, these actually do make really good leftovers. It's easy to just reach in the fridge and go,
Yeah, it's incredibly easy to just reach into the fridge and pull one out and just like I could go for a snack. Oh,
meatball time. And they do disappear rather
they
quickly.
do disappear incredibly quickly. I suppose I should get another cookie sheet out.
Well, yes, because these
These
cookie
two
sheets
can
are
go
thin
in.
enough to fit in together.
Yeah, I will pan this one. I actually would kind of like to remain on stream, show off the delicious meatballs at the end.
Okay. I suppose then the recording, they can just, like, skip.
Yes.
They can just assume that we have nothing to say and skip to the end. Because we have nothing to say.
What? But what about the thing with the people about that stock market, right? That was me. That was the cutting board sliding into the sink.
I would take a row off of that and put it on here so that they're more evenly distributed for that batch.
That's fair. Like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Those are looking rather good.
And if you'll notice, I'm not really like being super forceful with like rolling. I don't even really roll. I just kind of, pack into a nice loose little ball. There's enough stuff in there to bind them that you don't really have to be super forceful about it. They might break a little bit, but they'll still be ball shaped.
Yeah. And that's what you're really after in meatballs. As long as they're more or less spherical.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have
Because otherwise they're patties.
Yes, otherwise they're meat patties. Nobody wants that. And, hypothetically, after these are cooked, you can, put them into, like, a pasta or something, but...
or make a sauce to put over them.
But we have a tendency, as we mentioned, to just, reach into the bowl and grab them and eat them as snacks. Which is not a bad thing. There are definitely worse things you could have as a snack. Those fish are so weird today. I suppose, well, with the webcam, I could hypothetically show the fish.
True. You could just have 11 minutes of fish cam.
Well,
all our stuff cooks.
Let me move something carefully. Oop. See if I can just turn the camera. Here, can you help me out and watch the feed? I'm just gonna...
I don't know if you can get them down to the point where you can see them.
Let's see here.
Go up a little.
There we go. There's the clownfish.
Go up a little so you can see both tanks. Not that anybody really swims around the top tank, but...
No, not so much. Top tank's also a lot harder to see through because it has all the algae in it.
But that's why the sea hare.
You can't tell what is a sea hare in there from the distance.
This slug thing is a sea hare. We got him so that he could eat all the algae that has accumulated, and then we will sell him back to the pet store. Because they told us to do that.
Yes. They eat a bunch of algae. But, yeah, the clownfish in the bottom tank have been chasing each other around.
Yep.
When usually they just hang out together next to the rock that they've cleaned off. So this is a little weird. Since they've been buddies for years at this point.
They're still buddies. Hey, you could try to feed Spot. Is it feeding day for Spot?
No, yesterday was feeding day.
Oh.
And he's not going to show up on the camera very well.
True. He'd have to, swim around.
He tends to blend in.
One of these days, when we make a fish dish on stream, though, we totally should, in particular, have part of the stream be taking a piece off the fish that we are about to cook and go feed it to Spot before we start cooking.
Yes.
Because it's quite fun to watch.
It is adorable to watch him go after food. Why did something go beep?
Because I turned on the oven light,
Oh,
so I could feed it.
I always forget that we have an oven light.
I know.
Well, that is something else we could do in the future for things while we're actually cooking things.
Mm-hmm. Just set up
Set up the camera in front of the oven. I should probably turn this away from the fish now.
Why?
Well,
If you wanted to stay on the whole way until they're cooked, they still have 8 minutes that they have to sit here and listen to us blather.
8 minutes? Oh, we'll never make it. I do want to show the meatballs.
Yeah.
The final product. Mostly we're on the cooking and food and drink thing, so maybe Twitch might yell at us for just showing a fish tag. If a Twitch moderator happens to stumble upon the stream.
Because they're very obviously pet fish, not food fish.
Yeah.
Well, feel free to try to attempt to point it at the meatballs. It'll just be a little disconcerting to people for a bit while we move it.
I would actually need the meatball thing to be lower, probably.
Yeah, we'll try that next time.
We'll try that next time.
Of course, if people were watching, then we could have a nice little chat in the chat box. But nobody's here this time.
Well, there's one person watching, it says.
Where?
The top. One viewer.
Oh, okay. Hi, person. Didn't it say that over on the right side last time?
They updated the
UI.
They updated the user interface, yes.
Okay.
Hopefully in the future we'll have something better to do. Actually, I can show something off. One of the critters that we have in here is actually a
Tentacle.
cleaner shrimp. And now he's having a meal. There we go. There's food and drink.
There's...
Does that actually come through on the camera at all?
Yeah. All the crap that's caught under your fingers he can now eat.
Yes. Come on.
You should stop twitching your fingers.
Usually he's friendlier than this.
Well, he came right up. He must just not like beef juice. This one also prefers when you hold still.
Nope.
Nope.
Yes, he doesn't like me today. That is okay, though. He also did get fed earlier, so that's probably part of it.
He's just not hungry. What temperature do they have to be? Done?
That is a great question that I can look up the answer to. 160 is going to be your safe temperature for eating for these guys.
For pork.
For pork, since this is a mix of pork and beef. A lot of meatball recipes will also call for veal, but veal kind of sucks. Like, I mean, veal is delicious, but the whole industry for making it is probably not worth the cost of it. Also, veal is very expensive.
Yes. I have had veal raviolis that were totally worth everything, but not any actual, like, veal stuff. Veal raviolis were good. Only 3 minutes left.
I'm going to turn the camera back around.
Okay. You can just point them at the beautiful meatballs on the tray.
Yep. Actually, I'm going to be moving these trays because I'm going to want to scrape off the meatballs and show what they should look like. So you can put down hot pads.
Are we going to pile them on a plate all things like?
I suppose we could. I will need to grab a spatula.
plate.
The hot hand. Oh, the kitchen smells delicious at this point. Waiting is the hardest part.
Theoretically, I could give some sort of advice about taking all the crusts of the bread and cutting them even tinier and saving them for later, but I don't actually know how to do that. I just know it's a thing you technically can do.
You can also just let them go stale and turn them into actually like panko type breadcrumbs.
That too. Or bread pudding. Which you don't like.
No.
But I do. Although I don't think that would go good with the rustic Italian.
I don't think it would go good with the rustic Italian. That might be a slightly weird
Flavor combo.
Oh, I'm also going to grab a fork and just cut one of these in half to make sure that they're cooked all the way through.
Well, that's what the meat thermometer is for.
I have to get the meat thermometer first. I'm also pretty sure that they're going to be cooked all the way through at this point, since you made them reasonable size.
Yeah. They are very juicy, so they aren't particularly like brown. But that's alright. They're delicious.
Yep, we'll see.
It's one of those taste over presentation things.
Taste
I prefer
over
taste.
yeah.
I don't care what my food looks like.
Yeah.
As long as it's good.
Whoosh. Let me just. One and a half. Oh, yeah.
You done?
Yes.
Move them over here.
So. Whoosh. I'm gonna real quick bring that closer. There we've got our delicious tray of meatballs. They slide right off with the pan.
Mm-hmm. Ham is good.
Witch. She's a witch.
I know the secret.
The secrets of easy food.
Yes. And they stayed together pretty good too.
They did. This batch actually turned out incredibly well. The last type of meatballs that I did a recipe, the curried meatballs.
Those were okay.
Those were okay.
Great. Okay. So that's why we're doing these right now,
Yeah.
because we know these are good.
Yeah, that's fine. We only share the good recipes with people. As we care about you. But, well,
Ta-da!
ta-da! Going to end the stream there and eat our amazing dinner.
Our slightly out of focus dinner.
Weird.
Interesting. Oh well, you know
Oh
what
well.
meatballs look like.
Yeah. Well,
Bye,
here's-
y'all.
Bye.